Yeah, hi everybody, I'm Nina. I'm a mindset coach. My background is corporate, specifically the creative industry, but I also freelanced for about 10 years, I would say, maybe even a bit longer than that. So I guess my experience when it comes to uncertainty, being in between contracts, being in between roles, and just, you know, having navigated a career, you know, for over 15 years, you know, I feel very passionate about the techniques that I'm going to share with you today, because I know they work. And the reason why I know they work is because these are the tools that I've implemented over the years. And I think, you know, if you're looking for a quick fix technique, like, you know, take a pill and that's it, no more uncertainty, then this isn't the right session for you. But if you are looking for short, simple techniques that you can draw upon no matter what the situation is, and you're prepared to commit to those techniques on a regular basis, then I think you're going to find this session really, really valuable. It's my experience within the corporate industry that has led me to this place, has led me here today. What I noticed was that there was a real lack in short, simple techniques that you can use in the moment. So there were mindset techniques that you could draw upon before or afterwards, but nothing that you could do or practice in real time. And that's where the products that I've created come in. They're very short, they're very simple, and they're themed to typical experiences and thoughts whilst at work. But kind of coming back to today's session and the theme of cultivating certainty during uncertain times. First of all, we're going to start off with a short meditation, just so you can ground yourself, anchor, and really bring yourself into the moment, regardless of what kind of morning you've had already, or whatever time you're watching this, if you're watching this on the recorded version. And then before we start, if you just make sure you've got a pen and paper or a phone or something that you can write on. This session will be really interactive, so you will practice the techniques that I share, so that at the end of the session, you leave with a suite of tools that you can use, you know, in future situations. So let's get started. If you are sitting down, which presumably you all are, if you make sure that both of your feet are flat on the ground and your spine is straight and your shoulder blades are back and down, and just slowly close your eyes, resting your hands on your lap with your palms facing up, and start to wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, just noticing the sensations in your body when you do that. And then relax your fingers and your toes and bring your awareness to your breathing. So you're watching every inhalation and every exhalation, not making any changes to the rhythm of your breathing, just noticing that as you inhale, your abdomen rises, and as you exhale, it falls. And then bring your attention to the tip of your nose. And on the next inhalation, take a deep breath in and fill your lungs up to their full capacity. And just when you think you can't inhale anymore, take another tiny sip of air. And slowly, with control, exhale through your nose. And take another deep breath in, again filling your lungs up to their full capacity. And then slowly exhale, again exhaling through your nose, noticing on the exhalation that your body just very subtly relaxes a little bit deeper. And then take another deep breath in, again filling your lungs up to their full capacity. And slowly exhaling with control. And then let your breath go back to its natural rhythm. Bring your attention to the soles of your feet and just observe how the skin connects with your shoes, or if you're barefoot, the floor beneath you. Noticing how the edges of your feet connect. Noticing how the inner soles of your feet connect. Bringing your awareness to your big toe and your little toe. Just giving your little toe a wiggle. Just drawing and focusing on that connection to the support that's beneath you always, regardless of any situation. And then bring your attention to your mind and your thoughts. And in your mind's eye, visualize yourself holding a notepad and pen. And then in your mind's eye, visualize yourself jotting down any concerns, any worries, any uncertainty. It can be related to a current situation, a person, an institution. If it's on your mind, visualize yourself jotting it down. And just taking one last moment to ensure that you have included everything. Visualize a box next to you. Visualize the color of the box, the size of the box. It's your box, so it can look any way you want it to. And then visualize yourself opening the lid to the box and placing your notepad and pen, all those worries and concerns, with those uncertainties in that box. And then visualize yourself closing the lid to the box, pushing the box completely out of the way so it no longer exists. So in doing so, you're releasing and letting go of those concerns. Now, if your mind starts to wander, which it's bound to during this session, once you've noticed that it's wandered off, bring your attention back to your breathing and back to the present moment. You can go back to those worries if you want to after the session. And then take another deep breath in, just congratulating yourself for respecting yourself enough to show up for this session, investing in yourself, investing in your mindset health, and doing something proactive that's going to serve you in your future. And then when you're ready, slowly start to open your eyes, wiggling your toes and your fingers. You might want to stretch a little bit and just bring yourself back into the present moment. Okay, so hopefully that meditation has helped you to reset. It's one that I use often. It's one that a lot of my clients absolutely love. And you can, listen to it again on the replay. It's really, really helpful for just setting yourself up for the day, I would say. I haven't used it so much in the afternoon, but that's not to say that it couldn't be used. I guess with this with the meditation you've just practiced, it's a great start to the day. It's a little bit longer than the ones that I usually share. The ones that I usually share that are under 2 minutes. So that one's a bit more of a luxurious experience. So today you're going to learn, I'm going to share with you how to transform your mindset with short, effective techniques that you can use in real time, which I think is really, really helpful, especially when you are in between roles, when you're freelancing, when you are dealing with unexpected situations, whether you're in a role or not, that unexpected situations crop up all the time. And, I guess it's worth just remembering that changes, curveballs, unexpecteds, whatever, way you want to frame it, that is part and parcel of our life. And And that's not going to change. But what can change is how you choose to deal with them, the mindset in which you choose to view those experiences with. And this is where this session really comes into itself, in the sense that, you know, the techniques that you will experience and practice today will enable you to take charge of your mindset, so that when uncertainty crops up, you're already conscious of it. You're already aware of the narrative of your thoughts. You know, we choose our mindset, so we choose the way in which we view any situation and all situations. And that's not kind of pseudo positivity. That is, you know, it's scientifically backed, of course, but it's also, you know, if you think about any situation, if you think about, say, for example, a tricky client, you know, there might be several people that experience that client as tricky, and then there might be one or two people that actually don't. And that isn't to say that the client necessarily behaves differently. It's just more often than not how that person is choosing to view that situation. And it's the same with uncertainty. If you accept that uncertainty is part and parcel of life, then you can be certain about that. And it's all about the way in which you choose to look at different situations. And so by being really curious and honest about the thoughts that you play over in your mind over and over again, which are fear-based usually, you're able to create other beliefs that counteract that particular thought. And in practicing that over and over again can help to shift your mindset from, you know, fear to opportunity. And that's not to say that you can go from being really worried about something to being to seeing it in a completely different light. It's unrealistic to expect yourself to go from 0 to 10 in, like, you know, 5 minutes. But if you start off with practicing a slightly better thought than the previous one, and then build on that, you will slowly start to move your mindset into a place that's more receptive, that's more open, that's creative. And where there's creativity, there's opportunity, because that's where you can come up with solutions. And that can be super helpful, obviously, when you are, you know, in between roles, when you're looking for work, or when you're unsure about how to navigate a particular, you know, situation. Again, it could be related to a client, it could be related to a colleague as well. So wherever possible, being present, and this obviously takes practice, and I'll be sharing with you some techniques on how to really grip that a bit later on. But being present with your thoughts and your beliefs and the way in which you're choosing to view a situation really helps, because in being honest with your thoughts and the way in which you are viewing a particular situation, that gives you the information so that you can then make changes if necessary. The challenge that we have, so many of us, myself included, is that when we're in a place of fear, which uncertainty creates in us, we're either thinking about the past or we're thinking about the future, but we're not thinking about the present moment. And the reason for that is down to nature. We're hardwired as human beings to view situations in a not necessarily a negative way, but more on high alert. And that goes back to the times when we were, you know, living in caves, and we were, you know, looking outside of the cave to see if that rustle was an animal that was going to eat us. I mean, that's essentially where it comes from. So we're hardwired to view situations in a, is this a threat or not? And our mind doesn't want to know, maybe, it could be, let's see how it goes. It needs to know as a yes or no. And if it's a situation that you've not been in before, or it's a situation that you've been in before and it's not been experienced in the best way, your mind will go back and play back that situation over and over again to keep you safe. And so the purpose of the techniques that I'm going to share with you is very much about getting comfortable with being on the outskirts of your comfort zone. And I would say that as a freelancer, or indeed looking for roles, and you know, whether it's full-time or not, being comfortable with being on the outskirts of your comfort zone is probably critical. And also a bit like skiing on a very icy slope. Like it's not for the weak-willed. It takes a lot of determination to hold the line, so to speak. And that's where these techniques come in, because what you'll have is a series of approaches that are quick and simple, that you can utilize in real time to help you shift your mindset whenever you know you need to, whenever you feel the time is right. I wanted to just take an opportunity to talk about the breath and the importance of breathing correctly, and how you can utilize something that you do every single day to anchor yourself, to calm your nervous system, to improve the health of all of your organs, and to enable you to take stock of a situation that you're experiencing. And again, most people don't breathe correctly. When we are stressed or when we're anxious, we shallow breathe. So we only use about a quarter of our lung capacity. So I'd just like to invite you to experience what it's like to really breathe correctly. If you place your left hand on the top of your chest and your right hand on your abdomen, and you don't have to close your eyes, you can look at the screen or focus wherever your eyes land, and bring your attention to the tip of your nose and take a deep breath in and fill your lungs up to their full capacity, and notice as you do so that your abdomen is expanding. And then as you exhale slowly through your nose, notice that your abdomen goes back down again. Take a deep breath in again, filling your lungs up to their full capacity. And on the exhale, really slowly release. And just practice that one more time. So inhaling deeply again. And then slowly exhaling with control. And let your breath go back to its natural rhythm, and you can release your hands as well. And just notice the very subtle changes to your physical body and to your thoughts. And, wherever possible, and I always recommend using what you do every day as natural triggers. So whether it's getting a glass of water, looking at your phone, checking your emails, going to the loo, use the things that you do on a daily basis as a trigger to remind you to concentrate on your breathing and just bring yourself into the present moment. And it's very simple. And so many of my clients, myself included, when I started, working in this way, couldn't believe how simple it is. Like, oh, the breath. I'm always breathing. It can't possibly be it. It's got to be something, outside. And obviously, that taps into, the way in which our culture works, which is to look outside of ourselves for the solutions, when actually everything we need is inside of us. Who knew? But using your breath, utilizing your breath in that way can really help you excavate what the beliefs are, the narratives, the thoughts that are playing over and over again in your mind. And what I mean by that, I use myself as an example when I was, in between gigs, and, even now when I'm, looking for clients and all the rest of it, running my business, I use these techniques all the time. What am I thinking? What thoughts are going through my head now? Am I in a place of receptivity, or am I worried? Oh my goodness, what will happen if that happens? Oh my goodness, so-and-so said that happened to them. What if that happens to me? What if I've heard the market's really, really bad. I hear about it all the time. What if I don't get a gig in time? What if I don't get a new contract? I didn't get that interview, and so on and so forth. You don't need me to fill in the blanks. You'll have and be aware of the way in which you speak to yourself. And, you know, let's face it, and this isn't something that this is probably the first time you've heard this, but, you know, if worrying helped, then, you know, we'd all worry together and we'd all be fine. But worrying doesn't help. And that's where these techniques come into play, because what it does is it arrests the thinking and it brings you into the present moment, so that you can get really honest about your thought processes, and you can create alternative beliefs to counteract that. You decide on your action and then you put it into action. What can happen, and what does happen a lot, is, you know, you hear a lot, I think, about self-sabotage, and I think it's very interesting to be aware of how your self-sabotage shows up for you. Because in my experience, it's really kind of like tricky, and it kind of weaves in, and before you know it, you're not doing the things that you said you were going to do. And again, this goes back to being uncomfortable, or being comfortable with being uncomfortable, I should say. And, you know, frankly, when we start to feel uncomfortable, when we're on the outskirts of our comfort zone, if, say, for example, you're deliberating over whether to post on LinkedIn, that comes up quite a lot with the clients that I work with, being seen on LinkedIn, or there's quite a lot of debate on and off, obviously, with the open to work badge. Some people like it, some people don't. Have your own views. That is essentially about vulnerability, and how vulnerable do you feel comfortable being. Some people do not feel comfortable being that vulnerable that they, you know, put open to work. Some people do. Whatever, you know, works for you. But the point is that when you are aware of what makes you feel uncomfortable when it comes to looking for work, when it comes to resilience, when it comes to bouncing back, when an interview hasn't worked out, or what have you, you know, understanding that you're in an uncomfortable situation and that's okay, and that is information, can actually be really empowering. And that's when you can kind of flip self-sabotage. It's like, actually, I know that I'm feeling really uncertain and I'm not really looking forward to posting on LinkedIn, but this is because it's new to me. And anything new is always uncomfortable. But I know that ultimately it's going to raise my profile. It's going to get me out there. And also it's another thing that I can tick off my list that I'm doing, because there's nothing worse, let's face it, than knowing that there are certain things that you could be doing, but you put them off because you're worried, because you're fearful. And again, this is where self-sabotage comes in. And this is where uncertainty can really show up and plague and prevent you from moving forward. So why don't you practice this for yourself? If you grab your pen and paper and bring your attention to the present moment. So if you're practicing this, you know, later on, you know, whilst you're not listening to the session, the one thing that I would always recommend is making sure that both of your feet are flat on the ground, and taking a deep breath in and bring yourself into the present moment. Where am I? What am I looking at? And then with your pen and paper, and you can do this now, write down the top 3 fears that you have at the moment. It can be, I mean, whatever it is for you. You don't obviously have to share them unless you want to. You know, it could be around, you know, getting a role. It could be around the success of a campaign that you're working on, or a piece of business. And maybe it's not even related to work. Write down those fears. And then when you have at least 3, write a counter response. So if it's, I'm worried about not finding a new contract, then, you know, the counter response to that is, I have great experience and companies will want to work with me because of that. Or I have more than 2,000 contacts on LinkedIn. I can utilize those contacts. So what you're looking for is confirmation that you can overcome that fear. And then write down the first 3 actions that you can take to move forward. And this is really important in the sense that it doesn't have to be, and I would encourage you to move away from anything that's too exhaustive and time consuming. You know, it might be something like post on LinkedIn that I'm available, ask my last line manager for a reference on LinkedIn, or you know, contact you know, the first 5 people that spring to mind about new opportunities. And once you have those actions written down, put a date and a time next to them. Now, I always recommend that these should be actions that you can do within the next hour. And the goal is not, the purpose or the objective of this isn't to necessarily, say, for example, if you're looking for work, isn't to necessarily get a new role off the back of it. It's to get yourself into that action orientation in your mind. So when you notice, or when you notice that you are fearful around something, about a particular situation, you immediately come up with a counter response. 3 actions that you can action in less than an hour, so that it keeps you in that mindset of progression, movement, being opportunistic. And in doing that, it prevents self-sabotage. It prevents the fight or flight natural response to when you feel uncertain and anxious. It's this technique that has worked for me and hundreds of my clients over and over again. And it takes commitment, and you have to do it. It's not like a quick fix, but it works, and it works really well. And it's amazing how, when you put into action the actions that you have listed, that the way in which it cultivates more self-respect, more, you know, there's nothing better than doing the things you say you're going to do. It really does instill certainty, because at the end of the day, the only thing you can be certain of is yourself and the way in which you choose to show up for different situations. And your mindset is everything. It's the headquarters of how you view and experience life. And that's not to say you have to be like positive all the time. It's about being honest. It's about being, radically honest, as I've put there, with yourself, and coming up with actions that take you from where you are to where you want to be. So I'm hoping that everyone, that you've all found that useful. I always hesitate about asking people to share what they've written down, but if anyone because I appreciate that not everyone wants to, but if there is anyone that is happy to talk about some of the things that they're worried about, then please do say, and we can, if you're happy with that, we can use it as an opportunity to sort of talk through what your counter response is and what your actions are, so that everyone here can really sort of see it put into action. I don't know if anyone would like to speak up. Oh, good. Excellent. Thanks, Jodie.
I just felt that then as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah, more than happy to. So my top 3 fears were sort of becoming too stagnant by just sort of taking lots of work that sort of pay the bills and not spending the time finding sort of new, more creative projects.
Yeah.
Sort of lack of enjoyment in work, probably because of point one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then not being visible enough for new clients.
Okay.
So do you want me to work through all three or just focus
Yes,
on
please. Yeah. Yeah. Take the one that you want to work through the most first. Let's do that one first.
one? So I think probably my biggest fear is becoming too stagnant.
Okay.
And my counter was that I've already got a lot of skills under my belt. Unfortunately, that's a bit of a jack of all trades, which I'm sure everyone's familiar with. So my counter was that I already sort of have those skill sets.
Yeah.
So then I sort of actually wrote 3 actions to that.
Yeah.
So to showcase recent work, not just to remind myself that I have those skill sets for everyone else. I went to a recent webinar as well, and it said just, go on Eventbrite and filter by free workshops. And they said that their clients ended up, they weren't always totally relevant to what they're doing with work, but they learned all these new skills, which was really interesting. So it sort of reinvigorated them.
Yeah.
So doing that and finding lots of different sort of niches that might somehow transfer or translate to the work that you do on a daily basis. So booking to new webinars and sort of finding those small little nuggets of upskilling.
Nice.
And then the last one, I guess, through that would be sort of finding a passion project or something that, I don't necessarily charge for, but I really would love to see that in my portfolio and would expand either where I want to go or what I'm doing at the moment.
Yes, brilliant. And how do you feel like going through that? How are you feeling when you think about that, when you talk about those actions?
I think it feels really obvious. Like we tell ourselves these things, we know we should do it, but just find excuses or don't get round to it. But I think, just as you said, having those small actionable points rather than that sort of long-term, I need to do this massive thing. That's not going to be so unachievable unless you have those sort of micro deadlines, I guess, for yourself. So it feels more empowering, but it feels so obvious, but you sort of need someone to tell you to do it.
I mean, those are great, and I think, and thank you also for sharing that. It's really, really helpful, and also really useful, I think, for everyone to sort of, see and hear how you've worked through it. The thing is often we don't create the time to consider what our next step should be, and you're right. You do have all the answers. You always do. It maybe sounds trite, but it's true. We just need the time and the space to ourselves to kind of to work through things. And I really liked what you were saying about looking on Eventbrite and looking at different events and different webinars and so on, because it really reminded me actually to mention the importance of bringing lightness and joy, and dare I use the word fun, into what you're doing, because you're in your industry, but ultimately from the beginning because you enjoy it. And I think it's so easy, of course it is, to get bogged down with, I need to find another gig, I need to pay the bills, of course, and that's practical, and you always have to be practical. But finding other sources of inspiration can really help to raise your mood.
Yeah, definitely.
When your mood is upbeat, it's true, you attract more upbeat experiences.
Totally. And when you're sat in your room, not staring at a blank wall, but sort of doing the same things, and sort of my client base are sort of old ex-colleagues and things like that, rather necessarily than predominantly where it was originally was through agencies. So I'm not going out and seeing people all the time. It's a Zoom call here and there. So last week I had a couple of days where I actually didn't have any work. So I thought, well, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to replant some plants on the balcony. I'm going to sort of clear, and actually sort of that personal admin and sort of things that I actually quite enjoy doing made me feel like even if the work I'm working on this week isn't that exciting, I feel energized already from just taking that time to do those bits when nothing else is coming in.
Yeah, brilliant. No, I think it's really important as well to remind yourself that things change. That you can be certain of. So you might have not that interesting contract, but you're able to do other things. Do you see what I mean? And it's like, actually, that's now really serving me, because, you know, even though this contract's a little bit dull and it's not really floating my boat, it does mean that I can do X, Y, and Z. And so you're able to have that, you know, that appreciation. And also, not even to use that as an example, but just generally speaking, you know, when things are a certain way, you know they're going to change again. And that's you know, not to be like a downer on things, but it's just, that's how it is, because life is, you know, up and down. So it's really, wherever possible, wherever you can apply that mindset of, okay, it's not this, but what about that? It really helps to balance your mind, and then you're more receptive to other opportunities. Thank you. And I can see Lipika's got her hand up. Do you want to say something, Lip?
Yeah, just on that this last discussion point from Jolie, thanks for sharing your experiences as well. It's really helpful. What I'm finding, because I'm looking for new contracts at the moment, is I'm finding that when one door closes, maybe two more are opening, and it's closed for a reason. Maybe it's because it wasn't the right route to go down, or the right sort of contract for me. But yeah, I found that that's happened a couple of times recently. So and I think that's helpful to then explore these new avenues and see where it leads to.
Yeah, thanks, Lip. That's really valuable. I think also as well, just with my freelancer hat on, you know, like sometimes when you get really like seemingly bizarre thoughts, like contact that person, or da-da-da. What I would really encourage you to do is to act on those, because our mind will go, oh no, don't. You haven't spoken to them for ages, or they'll just think you're looking for work, or whatever. I mean, I'm using things that I would say to myself. You know, I would encourage you to push through those barriers and definitely reach out to those people, because in those situations, when I have done that, and this is through personal experience, it's always, to Lipika's point, led to something else. So I think wherever possible, where you can cultivate that, you know, that opportunistic, that open mindset, that will help move you forward. Does anyone else have any other questions? Thanks for that, Lip. Yeah, exactly. People always want to work with people that they like. This is the truth, you know. And so you always remember the people that you worked well with, which is always, you know, really nice. And you never know where people are going to end up. So it's always really good and really helpful to have that community and have that mindset and that openness to, you know, just reach out. I can't stand that phrase, but I always use it all the time. Sorry. You know, to people that spring to mind. Does anyone else have any questions? Or any challenges that they want to, like, they want to discuss with me, in the sense of like, this is really on my mind. How can I flip this? You know, feel free to email me afterwards, actually, if you'd rather not talk about it now or mention it. I think, you know, using this approach, as I've said before, really works. What I would encourage you to do is set your alarm on your phone for, you know, maybe like 2 or 3 hour intervals, and use the alarm as a trigger to check in with yourself. And you can go through this process. It's really quick. You know, you don't have to spend loads and loads of time on it unless you want to. But practicing this on repeat will help transform, well, not help, it will transform your mindset. It does transform your mindset, you know, and noticing when you are in like the depths of worry, which is natural. Fine, I'm here. It's not going to help me. What can I do to move myself forward? And it's literally being very, you know, turning the page with it, not giving your any worries, too much time. Because it's like anything, you know, it's like when you look for a yellow car, you see loads of yellow cars. It's the same with, you know, with worries. Worries don't help in any way whatsoever. Acknowledge them, know why it's there, know what's driving it, counterbalance it, and then do something to you know, take yourself further forward. Okay, I think we're at time now. Does anyone have any questions before we wrap up? No? Thank you all so much. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Nina. I think we have one more question from Hope in the chat.
Oh yes. Let's have a look. Oh no, I think she just said that she had to leave.
Maybe let me read that, because people who are going to listen to the watch the video later, they might not see the question, so I'll just read it for them as well. I've just made the switch to freelance after 10 years agency side, and I'm currently in my first down period, and I can't see where the next opportunity is going to come from. So definitely starting to panic. Any recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, I would look at how you show up on LinkedIn. I think that's really really important in terms of, if you even, you know, follow 10 people, like 10 posts, and comment on 10 posts, that will really help with your engagement. I would also have a think about who you've worked with in the past, how you can showcase your work. Those are kind of like the actionable things. But from a mindset point of view, I would keep reminding yourself of your experience, and that you have so much to offer. And people want to work with you. You know, say that all the time. People love working with me. People always want to work with me. And even though it might be like, oh my God, but no one wants to at the moment, just shut that down and keep on with that thought process. Because if you're maintaining that opportunistic thought process of, I've got a great skill set, people really want to work with me, then you're already putting yourself above the parapet, so to speak. Does that make sense? Is that clear? Yeah, I know LinkedIn's funny, but it's so worth it. Honestly, I say that as someone who is living the LinkedIn journey. Yeah, just get on LinkedIn, push past your fears. It's just such nonsense, honestly. Our fears are just ridiculous. Oh, everyone's watching. Only 2% of people see your statuses, your posts on LinkedIn. 2%. So you're never going on about anything. You're like, oh my God, I'm showcasing my work way too much. No, 2%. So yeah, get on LinkedIn. It's well worth it.
And we did have a session about it, so you can always have a look at the video. We had, I think, a 45-minute session about different strategies on being present on LinkedIn. So if you want to have another action to note down on the in the notes that Nina mentioned, it might be one of those. Review the session and maybe, you know, take next steps. Be present. If you don't know how to be present on LinkedIn, there you go. There's always something new to learn.
Brilliant. Have a look at that.
Anything else?
Thank you, Nina. That was so helpful.
Good, thank you.
Some of the stuff you know already, but it's just having that, it's just sort of hearing it again and being drilled into you and coming up with different techniques. So yeah, I'll definitely start practicing some of those.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lip. So nice to see you. Thanks all for joining, everybody.
Nina, maybe just as a last thing, can you share your email, or shall everyone contact you on LinkedIn, just in case anyone wants to follow up?
Thank you for reminding me. I'm always a little bit forgetful of this. Yes, that is my website, and you can contact me through there. I've also got a series of products as well, mindset bundles, which are very short meditations, affirmations, reflections that are themed to typical experiences. For example, when you're looking for work, when your inbox is overflowing, when you have a tricky client. So do have a look, and yeah, let me know if you've got any questions.